Want to talk about let's call it the shot heard around the world, the first inoculation of a potential vaccine by Moderna that was given this morning at 6:45 a.m. The CEO from Moderna, that would be Stéphane Bancel, was on Yahoo Finance's First Trade this morning. Here's what he said.
We have said before, we have to make a profit out of the first product we sold because we have invested $2 billion of our shareholder capital since we started the company. The company has never made a profit. And as I said, we raised another $1.3 billion of equity capital in May that is going to make product at risk, assuming the product is successful. And so we need to get a return. We are highly aware that this is a pandemic. And that we need to be very, very responsible how we price the product.
Moderna is one of the top trending stocks on the Yahoo Finance site this morning, up nearly 9% here in the pre-market on news that it has entered into the phase 3 trial of its COVID-19 vaccine. Now, this means it's going to start to give participants doses. The trial is expected to enroll up to 30,000 people. It's being conducted in partnership with the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. For more now, we are joined by the CEO of Moderna, Stéphane Bancel, as well as Yahoo Finance's health reporter, Anjali Kamlani. Good morning to you both. And Stéphane, thanks for being with us this morning. What do you hope these results in phase 3 will yield? Will it mean that this vaccine is safe to be used perhaps in the next few months?
Yes, so good morning and thank you again for having me. So indeed, the phase 3 for a vaccine is a typical last clinical trial. It's a very large one.
American diplomats are heading home from the consulate in Chengdu. The consulate officially closed on Monday morning. Now, this is the latest development in what is this tit-for-tat row between China and the United States, which comes just 1 week after Washington closed the Chinese consulate in Houston, in Texas. Both sides accuse the other of endangering national security, and both countries deny wrongdoing. Let's bring in CNN's correspondent David Culver, who is reporting from Chengdu. What are you hearing there?
And Becky, I had actually hoped to have the former consulate now as our backdrop, but while we were there, the crowds were getting so big and so intense and rather passionate at times, we actually had to move to another location. So instead you have the backdrop of the city skyline of Chengdu, a city of 16.5 million that as of today no longer has a U.S. consulate.
After some 35 years, the U.S. flag lowered for the last time Monday at the now shuttered U.S. consulate in Chengdu, China. Only state-controlled media allowed to capture these images of Chinese officials taking control of the property. The U.S. mission in China tweeting this farewell video, adding, "We will miss you forever." Over the weekend, the U.S. insignia taken down, moving trucks.
Protests over racial justice turned violent over the weekend, fueled in large part by the anger over federal forces being deployed to Portland. Thousands protested across the country, up and down the West Coast, in Louisville, Kentucky, in Texas. Riots were declared in both Seattle and Portland on Saturday. Seattle police say 45 people were arrested and more than 20 officers were injured after being hit with rocks and explosives. Officials say rioters also broke through a fence and set fire to this youth detention center that was under construction. A total of 5 people were shot at protests across the country. Police in Austin say a protester was carrying a rifle, was shot and killed by a motorist during a confrontation with demonstrators. In Aurora, Colorado, police say this SUV was fired at while driving down the interstate toward protesters. Another person in the crowd was also hit. This was the scene in Portland Saturday night, under utter mayhem. The video shows protesters.
Right before we came to air, the Journal says that Google will keep its employees home until July. Yeah. That's according to people familiar. They're calling it the first major company, David, to formalize such an extended timetable.
I don't know. Carl, you read that, and it's kind of shocking in some ways, and then in others, perhaps not fully unexpected. Let's not forget, it was Google that closed up its offices before, I think, virtually anybody else. You could certainly say that they have a decent view and the ability to compile a great deal of data, don't they, in terms of trying to understand what's going on. They have a lot of employees who are probably trying to plan for the fall or trying to plan for the full school year without fully knowing if their kids are going to be able to be in school or remote. But it is still shocking to see that a full year from now, potentially not sending employees back. Unclear whether they will allow some to come back. I want to see what the actual memo says. But again, preparing for the likes of another year, Jim.
Well, there you are.
A year from now, being home.
I thought your use of the adverb virtually was brilliant. This is one of the situations where anybody who would raise kids would know that Google is cheating. I expect search to go up in the fall because you can't monitor Google cheating. I mean, it'll really be interesting. I do think that the idea that it's July is very in keeping with my concern that the Modernas of the world are setting us up. I'll take Alphabet. By the way, I think that we see their cloud numbers could be 50% or more. That's Thomas Curry. And I think people are going to start saying, wait a second, did they take share? They take share from Azure? I think that's the narrative. I'm probably going to put that narrative out myself. I really like it. Just kidding. I'm going to wait for the facts. The facts could change. But Facebook, Alphabet, Amazon, Apple, that's a gauntlet. That's worse than the movie The Gauntlet with Clint Eastwood, which is really extraordinary. I got a Molly No Show 100 to 1 shot that one of those companies really disappoints.